Hey there, this is Brian King, and welcome to the Compassionate Dad Show. I am the Compassionate Dad. I've had several conversations over the past few days with clients that are struggling with the idea of how to love themselves. Now, I don't know about you, but I had a rough childhood, and I felt pretty worthless most of the time. And as I grew up into adulthood, I had this wonderful script playing in the background most of the time telling me, you're not good enough. You're not good enough for that girl. You're not good enough for that job. You're not good enough for the friends you have. In fact, the moment they find out you're a fraud, you're screwed. Well, these clients had a very similar backstory. They thought about being bullied as a kid. They thought about mistreatment from a sibling or somebody at school, and it stuck with them. It stuck with them in such a way that it tainted their entire perception of their own self-worth. And they asked me a very simple question. How do I get past this? This has been plaguing me for years. I want to feel better about myself. I want to have self-esteem. People compliment me and I feel bad because I don't believe them. It's so hard to take a compliment. What do I do? Well, let's first define what we're talking about here. When you think about the word love, how do you define it? Now, when I ask that question of other people, either they don't know, they say, oh, it's just something you feel. It's really hard to define. Well, that may be true, but the reality is you can define it. Because if you don't, how the heck can you differentiate it from anything else? So how would you define love? Well, there's a book that I read probably 20 some years ago. It's a book called The Road Less Traveled. And it was written by a man named M. Scott Peck. Actually, I have a copy of it right here. One of my favorite books. And it was published in 1978. But its words are timeless as far as I'm concerned. And one of the things that stood out for me the most about that book is the author's definition of love. And the way he defined it is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. Did you hear that? It's the will, the willingness to extend yourself, to give of yourself for the purpose of nurturing someone else's spiritual growth. Now, here's another word we need to define for ourselves. Spiritual. Spirit. In the context that I think M. Scott Peck meant, I don't think he was talking about it in terms of religious spirituality. So I did a wonderful Google search, and I found a definition of spirit that I think really fits well with our discussion and with what M. Scott Peck was referring to. The definition I found was, spirit is the non-physical part of a person that is the seat of emotions and character, the soul. So the emotions, that raw, vulnerable part of ourselves, the character, our beliefs, our values, the things that drive our behavior, our thinking, the way we do life. So to act with love, to come from a place of love, is to extend yourself to a person to help them grow emotionally and help them refine their character. Now, that's some pretty good stuff, wouldn't you agree? You see that a lot in marriage. You see that maybe between best friends. You definitely see it with parent and child. So how do you then find this for yourself? Extend this kind of love for yourself to nurture your own emotional intelligence, emotional growth, the growth of your character when you have so many scripts that are just beating the snot out of you day in and day out. Well, to keep things simple, I have one strategy. I'm all about simplicity because I don't know about you, but if something takes 10 steps, I'm not going to do it. But I have one strategy that I want to offer to you that I taught to my to two of my clients recently. And it opened a door like you wouldn't believe. It helped them see the path to being able to love themselves again. And I want to share it with you as well. What I recommended that they do is every time they give to themselves, whether it's taking time to eat some breakfast, to read a book, to take a walk, to go see a movie, listen to some music, every time they do something for themselves, I encourage them to say, I'm giving you this because I love you. Because if you say it that way, it does a couple things. It externalizes it. The tapes that we have going in the background that tell us we're not good enough, they typically come from a voice from the past. I remember when my father, who was outside me, said this. I remember when my teacher outside me said that. So when you say, I'm giving this to you because I love you, it's as though somebody else is saying it to you. Some entity, some force, the universe, is telling you that you are lovable, that you are worthwhile. And the script repeats 10, 20, 50 times a day, every time you give to yourself. If you stop and take a sip of water from the drinking fountain at work, you say to yourself, I'm giving you this because I love you. So all day long, you have a script in your head reminding you that you are worthy of receiving love. All day long. Every day, 7 days a week. And another thing I recommend that can really solidify this practice is to put your hand over your heart as you say it. To actually let yourself feel loved. Because it's not enough for it to just be in your head. Then it's just an intellectual game. It might as well be something you're reading off a fortune cookie that doesn't mean anything to you whatsoever. So put your hand on your heart as you say, I'm giving this to you because I love you. Feel the love. Feel your heart grow. See how it feels. You may not feel it at first, but that's okay. Because if you've got a big enough wall between you and feeling good about yourself, it may take a little while to chip away at it. So be patient. Allow yourself to grow. Allow yourself the time. Give yourself that time because you're worth giving the time to. You're worth it because I love you. I love you because I'm committed to your emotional and spiritual growth. And I don't even need to know you to love you. I just need to know that you're worth it. I just need to know what I want to give to you. You can meet a complete stranger and love them because love means you're extending yourself to help that person grow. So if you can love like that, if it can mean that to you, you can bring a heck of a lot more love into this world. You can feel a lot more of it within yourself. Because I refer to myself as the compassionate dad. I have a program that I enroll my clients into called the Compassionate Program Community. Compassionate Parent Community, excuse me. And the work that we do together is rooted in the importance of learning to be compassionate towards yourself. Because if you don't have it within you, you don't have it to give. So when you learn to love yourself in that way, that giving way, and you pass it to your children, so they learn to be compassionate for themselves, towards their siblings, towards their peers, we are part of what can create a more compassionate world. It's one gesture at a time. Towards our children, towards our neighbors, towards our spouses, towards ourselves. So that's what we're trying to do, is create that way of living with compassion. And I strongly advise you, if this has been useful to you, the message I've been talking about here, this is just the tip of the iceberg, my friend. There are so many more strategies, so many more things that we can do. to really just blow the door of possibilities open in your life. And if you want to learn more about how you and I can do that together, just go to compassionateparents.solutions and you'll see the opportunity that's available for you. Thank you very much for watching if you're seeing this on Facebook, or listening if you're getting this on iTunes. I hope this has been helpful. If it has been, please share it with others so they can benefit too. This has been Brian King, the Compassionate Dad. Have a great day. We'll talk again soon.